KCC311 week number 4 assignment. We need to create groups of non-quantitative data. Really relates a lot to what we did in weeks 2 and 3. For instance, my example, I'm going to talk about football here. If I gave you a list of favorite football team for 50 people, we could create a graph for that. Equals, count if, I click my big data, comma, and I click my favorite football team. I'm doing it in Google Sheets. You can do this Microsoft Excel. Equals, count if, let me get that spelling right. Click the big data, comma, click the football team, and it gives you some answers. One thing I didn't mention last week, if you click a formula and don't want to type it 15 times in a row, you got that box, go to the corner, not in the middle, go to the corner, that little fill handle, it's called, click it, pull it down, and Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets will do the formula 15 times in a snap. Nice little time saver. Now, what have I done? I've taken my big data set, people's favorite football team. I have grouped it into categories. I can highlight, I can graph, and that was week 2, 3 assignment. You're creating a graph, creating a very basic graphic. Give me a title, give me a graph, give me an observation. Excellent. And this is good information. However, when you have a graph of this, so many different categories, so many different football teams, it can get overwhelming. I sometimes want to group the data to simplify it. Instead of having 15 football teams, can I group the data? That's the goal of week number 4. Let's walk through the process. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to delete all this count if. We'll get to count if probably a second video for this week. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight everything where I just had all that information. I'm going to highlight it, kind of set it apart from my big data. Here's my big data. This is my, I'm going to work here. I'm going to call this my coding chart. Or another name I might give it is a reference table. I use both names, so bear with me. I kind of switch between the two. What's the goal? Group the data. I don't want to deal with 15 teams. I want to group it, simplify it. Well, if you watch a lot of football like me, you know that you can group teams into their conference. For instance, the Oakland Raiders. If you watch a lot of football, you know, oh, they're in the AFC. If you watch a lot of football, you say, New York Giants, I think they're in the NFC. Dallas Cowboys, NFC. Green Bay Packers, what? NFC. Chicago Bears, NFC. Patriots, well, they're the AFC. And you know what? I'm putting a ... because you know what? I'm not gonna go through the whole thing, but you understand the idea. I'm taking the data and I'm grouping it. Now, how does this help me? Well, if I can go back to my big data, I can get each team and figure out how to get the computer to tell me which group it's in. Instead of me having to type AFC, NFC, NFC, NFC 50 times in a row, let's have the computer do that for me. Let's have the computer determine the group. There's a formula. So I click this box right here next to my data. Equals, not COUNTIF, that's last time. I'm going to type VLOOKUP, and if you start to type VLOOKUP, you'll see it's right underneath. I can double click it. I'm doing Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, everything will be the exact same. VLOOKUP, there are 4 things you need to type in, or click in. Little more than COUNTIF, bear with me here. VLOOKUP, the first thing I'm going to click the data that I'm trying to group. In this case, I'm trying to group the Oakland Raiders. I know it's AFC, no, just click the box. Comma, what's up next? I need to click where my coding chart or my reference table is at. So that's D and E, I click those columns. The columns, don't click the squares, click the columns up top. Comma. Do not click now. Type 2, the number 2. That's it. Comma, type the word false. If you have a question, wait a minute, what's going on with the 2 and the false? Good questions. That's not the scope of this video. That's for another time. Stick with this. The big data, the coding chart, 2 and false. You type all that stuff, hit enter, and look, it says AFC. Once again, we were like, yeah, we know it was AFC, but here's the payoff. If I type that formula once and hit the box, I can pull it down, and the computer will make all the groups for me. And that's pretty handy. I can categorize a big data set in a snap. Let me walk through the formula one more time. Equals VLOOKUP. I'm starting to type it. Oh, it pops up. I double click it. I click the big data I'm trying to categorize, comma. I click my coding chart up at the top, the D and E, comma. Type the number 2 and type false. You work through that, it tells you the category, it tells you the group, and then I can pull it down through my entire big data set. That's the VLOOKUP process. Where does it come into play for week number 4? Here's your homework, your assignment. I'm giving you taxi rides for the city of Chicago. How many taxi rides? I'm giving you, a lot. There's actually 50,000. That's why we're using formulas and not typing it in ourselves. Each taxi ride, you have this number, it's called a community number, that tells you where the taxi ride started. And we're going to group that. How do we group it? Well, some are in the north side of the city, some might be in the west side, some might be in the south side, some might be downtown. And you know what? You can come up with your own names. Maybe you say O'Hare, maybe you say Lakefront, maybe you say Southwest side. Lots of different groups you can determine. But you don't start typing it into the big data. What did we do in this example? We had to create a reference chart, a coding chart. So I'm going to go way over to the side over here, and I'm going to say, okay, this is going to be my coding table, coding chart. And then I have to tell the Microsoft Excel, the Google Sheets, I need to tell it all the different community regions where a taxi gets picked up. So how many are there? Looking at this map, I see there are going to be 77 different regions. Yeah, I'm making you work on this one, but I think that's a fair ask. So I start with 1, and I go to 2, and I go to 3, and 4, and 5, and you get the idea. There's a lot of different regions according to my map here, and I need to account for them in this coding chart. Now what goes over here next to it? I need to group each of these regions. So coding chart number 1. Let me go back over here. Where's number 1 in my map? Oh, it's way up here. That looks like on the north side. So I could say here, that is in the north. Where's region number 2? That's in the north as well. You can go back to the map. Yep, number 2 is right next door. 1, 2, and you see 3 and 4 right there as well. So I can go back here, 3 and 4. That'll be north. That'll be north. Okay. However, now we get down here and say the 20s. Maybe you can say, hey, this is in the west. 76, that's actually O'Hare. These might, you might say west side. You might say downtown here. These might be the lakefront. This is for you to determine. But what the main thing is, you're going to make a coding chart. And it has to go from 1 all the way down to 77, and it has to have a lot of different regions. And you could be like me, you could highlight this and make it a nice little pretty color. Once you make your coding chart, then you come on back to the big data. You say, okay, a taxi showed up in region 24. What do you have to do? Equals. Oh, hello. My computer's getting frozen. There it is. Okay, equals. And from here, VLOOKUP. Click the big data, comma. Click your coding chart, comma. 2, comma, false. Right now, mine will give you an error. How come? Because 24. I didn't finish it. I'm leaving that for you. So that's your week number 4 assignment, but hopefully you can understand the process, whether my simple football example or 50,000 taxi rides in the city of Chicago. You are going to make a coding chart and you are going to apply it to a big data set. It's technical. There's a lot of work. If you have any questions, please reach out via email for the week number 4 assignment. The last thing that will be coming, there will be a video number 2 to tell you what to do once you have the coded data.